Right, let's get into some news that's going on around the world. And the first one is a warning to Americans and also the Democrats. David Sirota, founder of the Daily Poster, said top Democrats may soon have to choose between solving housing affordability issues amongst Americans and their political funding from private equity firms that are increasingly buying up suburban neighborhoods. Now, I know exactly who these people are, as I get 2 to 8 calls or texts per day asking to sell my home. And it's coming from various states also. And this is vulture capitalists again wanting to own everything and control when we can share and thrive together. Now, in an interview, Sirota reflected on recent reporting from the Wall Street Journal, which found that big investment firms like BlackRock and Blackstone, which have contributed significantly to members of the Democratic Party, are engaging in a bidding war to buy up housing, including single-family homes. Now, BlackRock are the owners of the Federal Reserve, taken over by monies provided by the trust in March of last year. BlackRock and Blackstone are both Black Sun members. So the Federal Reserve has gone from the Rothschilds' control to the Black Sun control, all under the watch of the controller of the trust, which should have been prevented from ever taking place. Now, Sirota said it's a difficult situation. You've got huge amounts of capital that are looking for bigger returns, and frankly, than even the market is giving right now. And real estate has been an asset class that more and more investors are pouring into. And Sirota added that the Wall Street involvement in the housing asset class creates a political issue for the Democrats that has deep ties to some of those major Wall Street firms. There you go again. Must be listening. Another cold caller. And the Democrat Party is going to have to choose, he said. And are we going with our private equity backers who pour lots of money into our campaigns, or are we going to be those who are trying to deal with the housing crisis in a serious way? We all know the answer to that. And these greed-based vulture capitalists are all parasites within our communities, preying on people who are struggling all for their own gains and bank balances. There is a solution to that also. If enough people put in enough funds into the TPC, we can run our own mortgage business, fund our own houses, without vulture capitalists or banks harvesting vast amounts of funds from us all. I've said this before, just 10% of Americans putting in $1 a month generates $33 million a month, each month. Just $1 from 10%. Imagine what we can do with that. We can fund homes, purchase homes, businesses, projects, with just 10% of Americans putting $1 a month. We can create all kinds of jobs, homes, cars, businesses, all with very low interest rates, because the interest then goes back to the people to help more people. Homes will be paid off sooner as well. Black Lives Matter are being in the news again, and no surprise, amid increased scrutiny of Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrisse Cullors who's been accused of lavish spending, including her reported purchases of multiple homes totaling upwards of $3 million, and the installation of fencing and an electric gate around one of those homes. Now, the original 10 BLM chapters are demanding more accountability and transparency from the BLM global network. And the BLM infighting comes on the heels of Kula's announcing she would step down from her role as the BLM Foundation Executive Director as questions surrounding her finances swirled. Now, Kula's, however, denied that her decision to resign had anything to do with the controversy, insisting that she planned to step away for more than a year. Yeah, collected all her money now, and now when the black people need some help or support, or at least some understanding what's going on, because no one's giving them the truth currently, off they go. But Kula's move to step down is not enough to satisfy a growing number of BLM chapters' demand for change within the organization. And referring to initial calls for more transparency and accountability from the BLM 10, the name for the 10 original BLM chapters, a new group deemed the BLM 10 Plus is now speaking out. It's the same story over and over again of how supposed ordinary people rise to the top of these movements, yet over time you find out they are as corrupt as the people they are engaging against. Or they were actors in a play making fools of their audience. It's a tragic comedy act that no longer is deemed to be funny. The issue is corrupt people comes in all colours. But perhaps the BLM people need to remember that guy who was the president and also black. What did he do for the black people? Absolutely jack shit. Zip, nothing. So it matters not which colour you fight against, and perhaps that tells you that you are fighting the wrong group. And you're all missing the bigger picture here. You attack the program, not the people. The people like Patrisse Cullors comes and goes, but the program running it remains. That's the same as the Israeli problem. There's been an investigation that has revealed widespread allegations of sexual harassment and abuse in the Afghan police force. And after months of research, the BBC revealed it has spoken to a number of women who say they were raped or assaulted by their superiors or colleagues. And the human rights group say the majority of the attacks go unreported. And one of the people, Hussaina Jalil, waived their anonymity to talk to the BBC about what happened to her. Now, she's still working as a policewoman, although she has changed departments. And she says she believes she was removed because she had been a loud voice. Why is this significant? Because the Afghan police are run by the CIA. So, not surprised by this story, a common theme the world over currently, to silence those that speak the truth. The Biden administration on Thursday announced the formation of a National Artificial Intelligence Research Resource Task Force, which is a group of 10 AI experts, there are none, who will create a plan for giving AI researchers more access to data, computational resources, and other tools. So it's all about spying now. Now, Congress mandated the creation of the task force when it passed the National AI Initiative Act of 2020, all under the radar. Cove ID. Remember we did it in the expose show? The ID Act. And the group will set up the National AI Research Resource and shared research infrastructure that the White House says will spur AI innovation and, quote, economic prosperity nationwide, unquote. Let's just stop that right there, as this is how people are bought off to ignore the obvious dangers. He said that it will spur AI innovation and economic prosperity nationwide. Does anyone ask the question, how is AI going to spur prosperity nationwide when it will replace people and jobs, including the clowns who developed it at the agencies? And people will go, oh good, it will bring prosperity to us. Hello, McFly. They did not state it was the people who would gain prosperity, did they? They didn't define it, and people just assume it. And the great question is, when have the government ever done anything for the prosperity of the people? The answer is zero, zip, nada. Now, the NAIRR will be designed for AI researchers and students across all scientific disciplines. What they don't tell you is as long as you are connected to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Johns Hopkins, and the CIA then. And they went on by bringing together the nation's foremost experts from academia, industry, and government. So again, that means all the agency-based people then. I wonder how that will work out for the people. And we will be able to chart an exciting and compelling path forward, ensuring long-term US competitiveness in all fields of science and engineering and all sectors of our economy, according to the NSF director, whose name is just about unpronounceable. But they said ensuring long-term US. US is USA Inc. It does not mean US as in us, we the people. It means US, the clowns people. Non-Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi and her entire leadership team on Thursday sought to quell a growing controversy over the Republican Ilhan Omar's remarks equating war crimes committed by the US and Israel to those by the Taliban and Hamas terrorist groups. Much furore over it. But the reality is, she is correct. Taliban was created and funded by the CIA. Hamas was created and funded by Mossad. Oops. It was nice to see a report from China this week of large portions of the population turning on celebrities and their wealth. And one popular celebrity caused a storm of, I think it was on like a Big Brother style show, complained that $101 a day was not enough for meals. $101 a day is not enough for meals. Now that's bad enough in a more richer country in America. But this is in a country where the average yearly, I said yearly income is $5,000 or $416 a month. Need, not greed, is the way forward, and it's time to make all celebrities uncomfortable. As Spain and Russia announce people who are vaccinated will not be allowed to fly now, which is a flip from the unvaccinated not being allowed to fly. What a joke this world is. All leaders and experts should be fired immediately. They are an embarrassment. I'm asking our THI and TPC members in the UK to get ready for the Freedom Rally in London on the 26th of June. And if you can attend, then great. And I have one request for that group. Keep targeting the BBC, Sky and other clown media outlets. They are the voice that needs drowning down and out. And in another example of them losing the narrative and their desperation to get back on track, our friends over at the BBC this week took the extraordinary step of showing the public how and when to trust statistics. It was funny that it was fake statistics that started this pandemic. Yet when the public worked out their own statistics, suddenly those statistics are no longer of any use. The BBC doing a statistical broadcast on behalf of the Johns Hopkins We Can't Add Up party is all too funny. Now, there are statistics and there is statistics. How you are swayed by them depends largely on whether you believe governments, agencies and the media, or you do your own research. Now, the latest figures for England up to in the past week is the number of deaths after a 28-day test period was 8. The weekly deaths went up 64, which is 8.5% higher than the previous week. Cue mass hysteria for just 8 to 64 deaths. Out of a population, let's not forget, of 60 plus million. You know, if only they created that much hysteria over the Clinton death trail that goes way beyond 64, it might get a bit interesting. But here's the kicker statistics. Deaths in England and Wales for the week the 21st to the 28th of May, 9,628. That's total deaths, not just COVID, which was 232 fewer than the previous week and 3.1% lower than the national 5-year average. Oops. In just England, 9,006 deaths for the week, 238 lower than the previous week and 3.2% less than the national 5-year average. In Wales, 610 deaths, 5 more than the previous week, but 0.7% fewer than the 5-year national average. No wonder they want to dictate how we look at statistics. And another event to put in perspective was the G7, and the topic was climate change and emissions. Yet all flew in on emissions belching planes with their sky ruining contrails, which, as we all know too well, has other elements to it. But the real kick in the teeth to the public, there was no social distancing, no masks, inside dining, outside drinking, and no mention of them having to quarantine upon return. And at which point do the stupid not see this as a piss take on the public? I wrote in May or June last year, and I asked the question, are politicians, royalty, celebrities, the media, cops, military and agencies all curiously immune to COVID? As none of them were or are abiding by the rules that they created. Because I can almost guarantee the UK lockdown ending will be put back. Now that was written last weekend. And right on cue, Boris Johnson and Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, pushes back the end of the lockdowns to July the 19th, whereby they will find another variant that doesn't exist, another wave that doesn't exist, as the statistics in the last piece proved. And they said the move towards a full reopening has also been affected by the news, and this is their figures, that both the Pfizer and AstraZeneca jabs only give 33% protection after one dose. 99.97% or 33%. In comparison to the 80% protection against the previous variants. We were told it was 90 plus, which is still less than people's immune system. Now they're telling you it's 80. Yeah, you could avoid all that 33 to 80% by not taking it, which then increases your chances of 99.97% with zero side effects. And an added bonus is you get to live as well. So after their non-COVID hobnobbing in Cornwall last week by these guffawing jackasses, this is a massive piss take on the people, and it's time the people fought back. Now, following the kickback of the lockdown to July the 19th, other measures were slipped into that debate. COVID jabs are to become compulsory for all staff in care homes for the older people in England. So 14 months later, we are back to where it all started from, killing off the elderly. Watch out for the spike of deaths in the older range. Now, their new word for the variant is Delta, which is the fourth letter of the Greek alphabet, symbolized by a triangle or pyramid, depending on your choice of description, and it's all very dollar bill, that, is it not? Now, a delta is also an area of low flatland, sometimes shaped approximately like a triangle, where a river divides into several smaller rivers before flowing into the sea. They do love their water analogies. But delta also means a change in a figure or an amount. To change in a figure or an amount. And perhaps we need to rename the university Johns Delta Hopkins then. Now, the one good news is vaccines offered to children over 12 now was deemed unlikely. Apple announced last week, and we covered the story, that they are asking staff to return to their offices for at least 3 days a week come September, and stupidly some staff are refusing. Not a smart move, that. Unless you like to be stung, which also means smart. Well, here is something I doubt many considered since the lockdowns, and most office staff and other workers now working from home. You do realise they have been using your electricity whilst you were at home, and no doubt saved themselves hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in the process. Has any employee asked for compensation for their now home office and energy use? I suspect not, as people just don't think that way. But here is a suggestion for you. If you have worked from home, for your 2020 and 2021 taxes, charge 1/3 of your home cost as a business office if you were employed from home. These are the things we miss, the obvious. And it's similar in many ways of how we have to pay or spend our time each year on behalf of the IRS. It's a nice perk, that, running a business operation and getting the people to do your paperwork for free. Again, it's because the people don't think in the right way. Now, there was a serious incident in the soccer match between Denmark and Finland over the weekend, when one of the world's leading players suffered a cardiac arrest on the field. Now, earlier officials said the midfielder was stable in hospital and had sent his greetings to his national teammates. Now, Eriksen collapsed shortly before half-time in Denmark's opening Euro 2020 game, which has been held over from last year, against Finland, and he had died on the field. And they had to do cardiac resuscitation, and the doctor said it was a cardiac arrest. And he was asked, how close were we to losing him? He said, I don't know, but we got him back after one defibrillation, so that was quite fast. And he said the examinations have been done so far look fine, but we don't have an explanation to why it happened. A 30-year-old man who goes through stringent medical tests, not only on behalf of the government with this COVID shit, but they do analytical technology tests on all players these days. You don't think that would have picked up a heart defect? The reality is he did not have a heart defect until 12 days ago, after he was given the Pfizer vaccine. Oops. And now the world knows these experimental jabs are a grave danger to your health. And yet again, the tech giants and media clowns are trying to quell the noise. You know, most of us don't have the health of the likes of Christian Eriksen. And if the likes of him, a super fit footballer, can keel over like that, what chance have we got? Last week, yet again, we were told of breaking news, and a great day for humanity is unfolding. Quite frankly, I can reel off around 25 of those days coming in the last 12 months or so. None arrived, sadly. And the latest was the Fed have come to the table, or have to come to the table, or their charter is to be revoked. And it's all happening within 72 hours. Now, in reality land, the Fed's charter and license was actually expired in September 2011. Now, 72 hours came and went, and the UN, the Fed, banks and governments all ignored the comptroller of the trust. And then we are told yet again, and the proof of yet again is in the transcripts of our past shows, that the response to the efforts of the trustee being ignored was the trustee removed them from the system again. I'm sorry, but that is loop news being replayed over and over again. And it's just not a genuine attempt to report news accurately. They followed up with the Fed is dead, the people were told on Tuesday. But one has to ask the question is, we were told the Fed was dead and blocked from the system 2 to 3 years ago. Who let them back in? Bonds that are connected to COVID, was the announcement, are now blocked. But the question is, who allowed them to be created and then not stopped 14 months ago? Why has the system changed its name again? From the restoration funds to now being called the Global Repository. Go and check what the definition of repository means. And they're 4 very basic questions that everyone is entitled to ask at the guardian of the trust, given they are our assets. But if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you will get the same results of 0 predictions correct and will be reporting loop news. And the point is, if you state you are about the truth, one must speak it. Otherwise, you're no different to the plethora of agency-backed alt media and their corrupt counterparts in the mainstream media. And the alt media has to be better than that. It just does. I will repeat again. They are all playing you like a fiddle. It only took 5 years to listen to my stance on Trump. How long will this take? As news of a BBC reporter being chased down the street this week by protesters, finally some people are seeing who is the real problem. But I must stress again, please, no threatening or violence against them. We have to show we are better than that. But here's another person calling out the BBC and their fake news and bullshit reporting. And it was great to see thousands of UK people marching on the BBC recently and calling them out. But with all the issues going on in the UK currently, you would think it would be about them. No, it was about the Jewish elements calling people out for having the temerity to question them, particularly in light of the bombing in Gaza. So one of the people of the Parliament wrote a letter to the BBC, and I'm going to read portions of it out. And it underlines how this junta works. Distraction, deflection, distraction, deflection. And she said, I have serious concerns about the lack of due impartiality and accuracy evident in the BBC's reporting of Margaret Hodge MP's verbal abuse of the leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn. Margaret Hodge was born too. She said, my complaint is not limited to one broadcast item, but to a number of items over a period of a week, which gave rise to the same complaint. I note that the leader was verbally attacked behind the Speaker's chair in the House of Commons on the evening of Tuesday, July 17th. and the attack was unprovoked by anything that Mr. Corbyn said immediately before the event and was unrelated to any procedure in the House. And one witness to the incident reported that Dame Margaret was shouting, "You're an effing racist and an anti-Semite." The Parliament is the American version of Congress. You're an effing racist and anti-Semite. Is that how politicians should be speaking? And she said the BBC's Code of Conduct states that the BBC has a responsibility to act in the public interest, serving all audiences by providing impartial, high quality and distinctive output and services. And she said Section 1.5 regarding editorial standards states that people expect that whatever we tell them is a true, accurate and unbiased as possible based on credible evidence from credible sources. Well, that's a load of bullshittery for a start, you know. MI5, who provide the news, being true, credible and reliable is the equivalent of saying Avril Haines is Mother Teresa. Sorry, but it's true. And the current controversy revolves around the Labour Party's draft code of conduct on anti-Semitism, agreed by its National Executive Committee. And it is this decision which Dame Hodge herself identified as the trigger for her charge that Jeremy Corbyn is a racist and an anti-Semite, a charge which she has neither withdrawn nor apologised for. And she said it would be plainly not in keeping with the BBC's editorial guidelines or the broadcasting code to simply report this charge without interrogating the substance behind it and giving due attention to opposing views in the controversy. And the conclusion is, it is of course entirely appropriate for the BBC to report on the horror of anti-Semitism, but it ought not to be presented as an issue specific to the Labour Party unless the BBC has evidence to the contrary. Indeed, YouGov data show that anti-Semitic attitudes are higher in the Conservative Party, which is the American equivalent of Republican, than Labour, and have actually been reduced under Corbyn's leadership of Labour. Now, the BBC had not included these vital facts in its reporting, which makes it neither proportionate nor accurate. And we regret that the BBC has failed to comply with its own codes with regard to impartiality and accuracy. And given the gravity of allegations of anti-Semitism, the role performed by the BBC is all more critical if it is to live up to its Rathian principles of informing the public. And she said, finally, we demand that future reportage focuses on the issues associated with anti-Semitism and the Labour Party in a neutral manner and with accuracy and rigour. The Labour Party and its leader should be offered an apology and a correction. Signed, Pamela Blakelock. It's the classic divide and conquer programme. According to this and how it's been portrayed, the Conservatives are the party of the Jews and Labour is anti-Jewish. And yet many of the top Conservatives during World War II were hobnobbing with the SS Black Eagle Hebrew Anunnaki group. Funny that. You know, it's unreal. The world's in a mess, and certain Jews seem to think that questioning them is anti-Semitic, and that takes precedence over everything else that is unfolding. But perhaps those same people can label or ask these questions. Why, despite being the wealthiest race on the planet, are so many Jewish people in poverty? And also, despite being the wealthiest race on the planet, why are so many Jewish people living in poor conditions? Why does the Jewish race have a caste system against its own people? And why is it okay to label all non-Jews as Goyim, yet any questioning or slight on the Jewish is seized upon and people are labelled and denigrated? And why has Israel never had a prime minister that hasn't committed gross national atrocities on several countries? And this is another example of classic deflectionism. Don't look at what is real, look at Israel. And what we provide you is the modus operandi. It is often overlooked the risks people like myself and others take to give you the truth behind the lies. Death threats, general threats, constant stream of disruption via agitators, trolls and shills. Banks disrupted, and everything they can do to disrupt your everyday life. And bizarre events in your life, all designed to throw you off the path. But this week saw another casualty of the truth versus the lies war, and it has an all too familiar theme to it. The Alabama TV anchor who broke the news of the infamous 2016 tarmac meeting between the former President Bill Clinton and then Attorney General and Barack Obama's mistress in a bitch format, not a sexual format, Loretta Lynch, died on Saturday in an apparent suicide, according to reports and his employer. Christopher Sine, 45, was found dead by Hoover, Alabama police around 8:13 a.m. Saturday after cops received a call of a person down at his Scout Trace home. And the former college football player's death is being investigated as a suicide, according to the Hoover Lieutenant Keith Chesek-Lieber. Suicide again. Funny, don't it? It is an extraordinary and amazing phenomena that people who discuss the Clintons in a non-positive light all end up dying various bizarre deaths. Perhaps Johns Hopkins can work out the percentages of that event. Well, perhaps not, given their inability to count forward, never mind subtract, divide and multiplication. But who is responsible for all these deaths? Where are the FBI investigators in this? Are they not able to connect the dots to a case anymore? And the reality is we've had a serial killer on the loose in this country for the past 30 years. And the dead all have a common theme of revealing the crimes of the Clintons and then ending up dead. This is a program, and the Clintons are the front puppets. I say Clintons, and yet it is singular, as one of them died on Sunday, 9 p.m, September the 4th, 2016, on the way to Phoenix. That person was Hillary Clinton. And that is not conjecture, that is fact that I've had verified by several sources. Me personally, I was informed 2 hours, less than 2 hours, after she died. But to Christopher Sign, we say, rest in peace. Your sacrifice for the truth will not go in vain. And to the truth deniers, assassins, and others of your ilk who deny the truth, this song is for you all.